Hi, this is Penny Potluck. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to make over this giant teacup planter. I've had this guy for a while now, and I moved recently and I just didn't have room anywhere in my house to bring in such a large decorative item. So unfortunately, he spent the winter outside. So now it's my intention to just go ahead and make this into an outdoor planter. I've cleaned it all off with soap and water and scrubbed it down and drilled a hole in the center for some drainage. So now we're going to prime this with a Zinsser primer, which is a very thick, very heavy coat of primer. You can see my paintbrush standing up there. We're going to do one coat and you'll see that it will cover very, very well. I'm not paying too much attention to the inside because I will be lining that before I put in my soil and my plants. So I've waited overnight for the primer to dry and come back the next day. And I've sanded off any gloopy bits or rough spots or drips. I was turning the saucer around on the plastic, and when I touched the plastic, the backside of the saucer was wet. So I got a very rough spot that I sanded down completely, which is why there's so much primer missing from that underside of the saucer. So now we're just going to go ahead and apply a coat of paint. This is an acrylic paint that I already had, and it's the type of paint that you would use on your casing trim or your baseboards in your home. It's a satin finish, not a high gloss. It does look very, very shiny here, but it just has a bit of a shine. Now we've let that dry overnight. I've gone ahead and printed off these really adorable little owls, and I found the images on freeimages.com. So what I've done is just used a laser jet printer rather than an inkjet printer that you would normally use for an image transfer. And I've printed the images onto the back of your address label paper. That's the type of paper that you would buy if you're going to print off your mailing labels and you have the plasticky backing left over when you're all done. Once I've printed them off, I've gone ahead and cut them out, and you will notice a little thinning around the edge. And you'll also notice that these images, they look like they were done in some probably watercolor, and they're not a perfect image to begin with. I do expect there to be a little bit of imperfection in this transfer because it is a curved image. We're not going to be able to make really good contact, uh, not as well of a contact as if we were doing this type of a transfer on a flat surface. So after applying your Mod Podge, you just put the image printed side down and grip the image very firmly, starting in the center, work out all of your air bubbles, all of your excess Mod Podge that you might have on there. I'm just using a dry napkin to do that. And work as well as you can to get any of those wrinkles out. Try not to move the image around very much when you're doing that, and don't lift it off. Just turning this pod around and putting the second image on the other side, using the same process, putting the Mod Podge down all at once, putting the image over and rubbing out the air bubbles, getting out those wrinkles, starting in the center and holding very firmly to that image so that it doesn't move. So we're just going to let that dry for about an hour. And I have seen directions that say to wait overnight, but I have seen other crafters have success with this method in as little as 45 minutes. I didn't want to risk the paper sticking to the pot, so I waited for just a little over an hour before I started to peel it back, and I did peek under the corner to see that the image was coming off before I peeled the rest of it away. And the Mod Podge was dry, and the image transfer was coming through. Here we go, and let's have a look. You do get a little bit of lifting where there was any wrinkles or where there were any air bubbles that didn't come out completely. But that's a pretty good transfer. I think it's really cute. And I would never be able to just paint something like that by hand without some sort of help. So for me, doing this process just makes this kind of a craft possible for me to do. This guy I think is my favorite. And isn't that cute? You can see a transition between where the pot is painted and where the dried Mod Podge is thicker on the pot. So now we're just going to come back in with some sandpaper and try and smooth that out a little bit, and then we'll touch the whole thing up with a little more of the same paint. I hope that this video gives you guys some inspiration, and I would love to see any pictures or videos of any similar projects that you have done or that you will do. This is a very gritty sandpaper that I'm using. So when I sand, I am going right back down to the wood. Now this paint isn't having any trouble filling in those spots. And after it's dried, you would never even know. So if you don't have a heavy primer, you might want to try just going ahead and painting the pot. Chalk paint would be a good option as well. As you can see, I sanded off his feet completely. That little guy ended up going on a bit crooked, and it was most noticeable because of the position of his feet. So I'm just going to go in lighter and add the feet back on myself with a gel pen or a marker of some sort. The handle, you can't really tell in the video too well, but that part of the handle was very, very rough. So I'm going in pretty aggressively here with the sandpaper, and I'm just going to smooth that out. I don't mind a bit of a distressed look. There were some cracks in this pot that, as you can see right there, there's a thick one that I just left, but there was another one in it that I thought the pot was actually in danger of falling apart. So I did put some wood glue in before I started the project, just to make sure that it was going to hold together. And that was after I washed everything with the soap and water, and after I had let it dry for a little while. I will be making some more videos in the near future, and so I hope you guys will like this and subscribe if you'd like to see more. So now I've just gone ahead and taken this right outside so that you could see the finished product in the sun, almost finished. I've put some plants in it. They're still in their planters, the ones that came with them when I bought them. There's no dirt in the pot yet, but I wanted you to have a look at how this is so far. Maybe you like the look of it as it is, and you wouldn't want to go any further or do anything else to it. I think I'm going to decorate it a little bit more. I want to add a little bit more color to it and try some different things. So hopefully you'll catch that on the next video with me. And see you later. Thanks for joining.